Hey folks, today I'm bringing you a speed book review of all the books that I read in 2019. I had a really good time putting this together last year for 2018, and people seem to enjoy it, so here's a quick book review, thoughts, stuff like that, on all the books I read in the last year. The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This was the book one of Chaos Walking. Really interesting, sci-fi-esque. It didn't feel sci-fi initially, but as the story progressed, it became obvious it was actually sci-fi young adult. Premise is that this young boy has grown up in a town full of men. The women have been killed off, died, something like that. And because of something with the world, everyone can hear each other's thoughts. Really interesting. But then you discover people who can't hear other people's thoughts. And it's the main character starts learning that he doesn't know everything about the world, or what he has been told is false. Really good, unreliable narrator example of this book. Really good. The Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness, book 2 of Chaos Walking. This added a second character that you got from that second character's perspective. Weird phrasing. Really interesting, progressed the storyline along. I actually think it does not fall into the normal trilogy issue of the second book being the worst of the three. I think I enjoyed this possibly more than the first book. Monsters of Men by Patrick Ness, the last book in the Chaos Walking trilogy. Really enjoyed this book. Added a third character's perspective, and had some really interesting, examining, I guess it would be colonization type thing, but with aliens, 'cause sci-fi, and they're on an alien planet, and just really good, really good sci-fi, not just young adult, but just good sci-fi. Kid Gloves by Lucy Knisley. I always get confused by how to pronounce her name. This is autobiographical about her process of trying to get pregnant, being pregnant, and then giving birth. And I really enjoy her graphic novels because not only is it her story, but she also has sections in it that are educational. She does quite a bit of research, so she'll have not only her perspective, but also a bunch of statistics on what she's talking about. She actually started out each chapter kind of with those statistics and then went into her experience. Really good book. Enjoyed it. Probably a great graphic novel to pick up for somebody who might be expecting. Just a little bit of a warning. If they're already nervous about complications, maybe find a different book because she does have some complications. She's fine. But, if they're nervous, maybe not the best book. But I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. And it was also nice just hearing one person's perspective. And I enjoy her graphic novels, and her artwork is beautiful. Alright, the next 4 I'm just gonna do all at once, and that's 4 more in the Wicked and Divine. I read book 4, 5, 6, and 7. Continued to progress the storyline along. I love the pop culture world of Wicked and Divine. I want more glimpses into the world, but also I just love the mystery of trying to figure out what's going on, and then being like, this is not what I was expecting. It's so good. And the artwork is just, oh my goodness. It's all so pretty and bright. Yes! Kind of makes me want, this is the one thing that kind of makes me want to, play in a superhero-esque modern tabletop RPG. If it was a Wicked and Divine somehow, I would be on board. I don't know how that would work, but next up is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. I have not seen the movie yet, but this is really great. It's an own novel, so she's had similar experiences, and I think that really helped because it doesn't and like this book doesn't have like a happy everything wraps up ending. It feels very real. It's very raw. It's about the main character is in a car that gets stopped by a police officer, and somebody she knows who's driving the car, he gets shot and killed. And so it's not just her experience of dealing with that fallout and trying to figure out, does she want to speak publicly, does she not? But it also gives you glimpses into like what's going on in the community, and just a really fascinating, very different book that I think is really important for, you know, the world we live in. And very, very, very highly recommend. I mean, it's won a number of awards. I've heard good things about the movie. Yes. Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. This was a fun book. I mean, it's about a guy that works at a bookstore that has this like weird mystery going on, and there's like maybe a secret society. It's also taking place like at the kind of start of the internet, so I really enjoyed I could identify really closely with the main character in the book. Fun, not what I was expecting, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was hard to put down. Next up, I read Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. This is the sequel to Vicious. It's an interesting, like, kind of superhero villains. It's definitely following more of the villain side. I enjoyed this book. I think I like Vicious better. But that might be just the like new cool idea. This continued on the story, built out the world a lot more. There's a lot more world building in this. But I enjoy everything that I've read by V.E. Schwab. If you're looking for more of a like modern, anti-hero type book that's not like dark and broody. It is a little dark and broody, but like in a good way. Would recommend. And with another memoir, I read Educated by Tara Westover. Oh my god, this book. Like, I would, if I did not know this was a memoir and was stuff that actually happened, I'd be like, no, this is crazy. How is this going on? Quick summary. She grew up in a kind of survivalist Mormon household, and didn't have like a birth certificate, didn't go to school, and she ends up attending like Harvard and Cambridge. Harvard and Cambridge, is that right? If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments. And so it's her journey to getting an education and learning that what she grew up with might not necessarily be true, but she's also she does not put down or seem to judge her family. It's just kind of stated very much as fact of like, this is what she grew up with. This is what she grew up with believing. Next I read Boundless Mercies by April Genevieve Tuckholk. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. I'm sorry. This is my favorite book that I've read this year. It's a reimagining of Beowulf, gender swapped. Just the world building is great. I'm definitely going to have like a faction that's like the Boneless Mercies in the next homebrew that I have. Just they are so cool. I love the descriptions, and there's a lot of like smell descriptions in this book that really help draw you in and plant you in the world. Like, this book is something that I read it and was like, I want to play in this world in a D&D adventure, and just, yes, read this book. Next up was Geek Girls Don't Cry by Andrea Towers. This is a collection of essays. Some of them had actually been published before, I believe, on a blog. It takes a whole bunch of different female geeky characters and uses them as examples of how real life lessons, dealing with grief, dealing with trauma, coming into your own. Really good essays. There's also interviews with actual women in the geek community. I really enjoyed those. It has a foreword by Marisha Ray. it's just a really good book. Very easy, something to like pick up and read a chapter, set it down, read something else for a while, and then go read another section when you want it. I definitely will be revisiting some of these life lessons as I feel like I need them. I read quite a few memoir type things this year. Next up was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Really good. He has a great voice like this. Reading it, I heard his voice as I was reading it. And some of the stories were things that I'd seen in his comedy specials, but this takes a much more serious approach. I learned a lot about South Africa that I didn't know about, and apartheid. And just really interesting, very educational, because he does start out each chapter with kind of like a mini history lesson and then goes into his own personal stories. Really fascinating. I think I want to try reading a few more memoirs from people who are not like American or British, to try and, get different perspectives. And really enjoyed it. It's also humorous at times, but much more of a serious tone than, his comedy specials. So if you're looking for a good memoir. Next up, I read The Power by Naomi Alderman. It's about women have started developing the ability to control electricity and send electrical volts, and how that changes the power dynamics in our world. It's an interesting sci-fi book. There's some interesting, it's kind of written as a history book, and the final, how the book wraps up is, I was sitting in bed reading it, and I think I out loud went, oh damn. While Ryan was asleep next to me, and he woke up and was like, what? I'm like, no, just the book had a really good ending. Interesting characters, really good if you're looking for a more sci-fi kind of that set just a little bit in the future. It's not, we're out in space and stuff like that. It's on Earth and that 1-2 years in the future type of sci-fi. Next up, I read another graphic novel, Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. I tore through this thing in a day, just a couple hours. Really fun YA. I love Rainbow Rowell's YA books, so I picked this up. It's about two friends in a pumpkin patch, and one of them has a crush on a girl, and so his friend tells him, okay, well, we're gonna go find that girl so you can tell her you have a crush on her and ask her out. And just, I love Rainbow Rowell's characters. It's just so good. If you're looking for a wholesome, feel good, and there are LGBT characters in here, great representation, just, this was a feel-good book that just made me so happy. Next, I read Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This book, I don't understand why everybody loves it so much. It took me so long to get through it, and it's overrated. That's all I'm gonna say. If you want to know more, you can subscribe. You can support us on Patreon and check out the book club and find out more thoughts on it. It just, not my cup of tea. And luckily I finished out 2019 with a book that I did enjoy, which was The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. It was fun returning to the world of his Dark Materials. I read this before watching the series, which I'm enjoying, and it's fun. I enjoyed it. There's a lot more world building of the world that you got senses of in his Dark Materials, but didn't get explored as much. There's fae elements that I missed or I don't remember. It's fun. The main character, sometimes you're like, oh gosh, but it makes sense because he's a young boy and it's that age. But fun adventure. Most of the time they're on a boat in a giant flood. And yeah, a nice returning to, it felt like a return to my childhood because I read his Dark Materials when I was younger. So, if you're looking for nice, light fantasy, it does get dark at times, but not too dark. The Book of Dust. Alright, those are the books that I read in 2019. I read 20 books. I also did reread an absolutely remarkable thing that's not in this pile. But yeah, what did you read in 2019? Did you read any of these books? If so, what did you think? Did you enjoy them? Did you not enjoy them? Did you think they were overrated like I thought Night Circus was? Let's talk more about books down in the comments below. A big thanks to our patrons, especially Arvi. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye!